I pinch myself every day. I can't believe I'm this happy when I spent so many years unhappy. But I don't want to have any misconceptions or misgivings that it's like easy or it's not work, because it is. But the big difference is I never wake up and wonder, is this the right person? Am I in the right container? Is it supposed to feel different than this? And that's priceless, because every day for many years I woke up saying, is this the right person? Should I feel different? Should I be happier? And I am a million trillion times happier. Like, it's harder, but like I have that like underlying peace,
Yeah.
which you just no amount of money can buy.
Welcome to The Details with Allison Kahler, a space for real divorce stories and grounded conversations with experts, helping you find clarity and courage as you step into a future that may look different than you expected and better than you thought possible. My guest today is Anna Howerton. Anna is a relationship coach who splits her time between Raleigh, North Carolina, and Southern California. As a relationship coach, Anna works with people who are in relationship crisis. She also supports people who are navigating life after divorce, including dating after divorce. Anna brings over 20 years of professional experience, as well as her own personal experience, with her first marriage having ended in divorce and finding love again with her second marriage to her husband, Mark. Let's get into my conversation with Anna. Welcome, Anna, to The Details.
Thanks, Allison. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited to be here. I wish, honestly, we were back in Santa Monica having skinny margaritas, which was the first time that we met.
Yes, me too. Love that hotel, the views, the vibes. They're so good. So I wish we were in person as well.
So for those of you that are listening in, Anna and I met through a former colleague of mine, just given that we were doing some work in the divorce space and just totally hit it off. And so I'm thrilled to have you as a guest on the podcast. And Anna's such a perfect guest to have on today because not only is she going to share a little bit of her own experience of divorce, but she's also going to share about her work as a relationship coach, which I don't know about you, but back when I was going through divorce, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a relationship coach. So excited for everything that we're going to learn from you today.
Yes, I'm excited to share.
Wonderful. Well, let's dive into your story. So if you can tell us a little bit about your divorce story, where does the story begin for you?
Yeah, thanks, Allison. I have now been separated and divorced 6 years, I think. I'm 41. So I about 33, 34 when I started contemplating divorce. My husband and I were sweethearts. We both went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We started dating when I was 19, studying abroad in London. So, yeah, that kind of just gives you like a barometer of the age factor of I was quite young, not even 20, and we were sophomores the spring semester, and we broke up a couple times in college, but then we got back together our senior year, and we were kind of like, all right, the third time we're getting together, if we're doing this, like, do we both think this is it? Because he was actually going to go do investment banking for his first job out of college. And as you know, Allison, and maybe some of the listeners know, like, that's essentially like, oh, I won't see you for 2 years. Right. Since you're going to go, this is a long time ago in 2006. And so we kind of like got back together and we're like, okay, like this is it. Like, I think, you'll do 2 years of iBanking. And then I was working in DC, he was working in Richmond. We'll get married and then we'll start our life together. Right. And I do come from a super religious background. And so that is a part of the story. My dad is a minister.
Wow.
I moved around growing up. So I was very religious and had bought into the, waiting till your wedding night to have sex. I was a virgin on my wedding night. So, that's a real fun piece of the story, for me. And so I was really keen on, like, I wanted to get married young because, well, I wanted to have sex, but also I love love. I am one of these girls that, like, I dreamed about my wedding since I was 4. Like, I did. Like, I bought hook, line, and sinker, all the Disney princess, all that stuff. Like, we were kind of like dead of center that era of like all the awesome, Beauty and the Beast and, all of them, like, Little Mermaid and Cinderella, Snow White, all of them, Sleeping Beauty, like that I watched the repeat as a kid. So I am that prototype that bought into that whole fairy tale. And I love love. Wanted to get married young. My parents met in college at UNC Chapel Hill as well. So I like thought it was so cool. I'm gonna meet my husband in college and we're gonna get married, our lives together. I mean, part of it is like it would have been foreboding for us to live together, which would have been hard. Like, I wanted to go ahead and get married so we could live together. So my ex-husband's first job out of iBanking was in Boston. So we moved to Boston. That's where I met our connection. And basically, we lived 5 places in 11 years. So we really bounced around because he was in Richmond, DC. We got married, moved to Boston. Then we moved to Philadelphia. He went to business school at Penn. His first job out of business school was San Francisco, move across the country with a newborn. We moved back across the country with another newborn back to Philadelphia. And then we come to Raleigh, this May, it'll be 9 years ago. And essentially we did all that bouncing around in cities. We made lots of friends, had lots of fun. We both love city life, being urban. But now I realize with time and space, when it was so hectic, all the moves and the grad school and the new friends and the amazing restaurants. I mean, like in San Francisco and some of these cities we lived in, you could go to a different restaurant every night. There was so much distraction and noise. And then I was also having babies, so that's a wild time. And you don't have time to think about whether or not you're happy or not in your marriage. It's just hard. It's so intense. And then, there's part of me that's embarrassed to say, like, we moved to Raleigh, we finally bought a house. Like, we had not bought any real estate because we've been bouncing around so much and urban. So we moved to Raleigh, we finally buy a house at age 34. And we've got the little boy, we've got the darling little boy, the darling little girl, we've got the house, and we've got 2 stable jobs. And then it was just kind of like, I don't know, like a year or two into living in Raleigh, I was just like, is this it? Like, and now what? Like, I die? Like, what happens next? Like, is it over?
You had the fairy tale on paper, but it didn't start to feel like the fairy tale, it sounds like.
Exactly, Allison. And I think that's which is what I talk about a lot with my clients. It got quiet enough for me. Get quiet and still, like, there was no more crazy moves and new jobs and new cities and lots of friends. Like, we were kind of actually, oddly enough, both went to UNC. There are lots of alumni here in the area, but we were kind of rebuilding friend groups, but everyone had small kids, and it just quiet enough for me to be still and start to listen to my like inner knowing and inner compass, my intuition of like, is it supposed to feel better than this? Like, am I supposed to be happier? Like, I think it's supposed to feel different. Like, I really started to feel like my first husband was a brother and like a co-parent and a partner, but not a lover. And I think I just was like a little ahead of the curve on just feeling like we were cohabitating. Like, we were just with emotions. We had small kids, so that does affect it. But I'm like, you hear about people feeling like that. You mentioned gray divorce. We were talking about that, of like, that's a huge category. People waiting are now getting divorced and, basically 55 and up when the kids leave the house, or even if the kids have been for a couple years and they're getting divorced. It's almost like I experienced that, like, I really on an expedited timeline, like really pulled up in my early 30s of just like, I think, because for me, and I even today, like, dig in with myself, like, am I super selfish? Like, always just want more? Is the grass greener? So of course, during that period of when I was contemplating, which, if I'm honest, that was the worst part of any part of my divorce, story or arc. That was the most agonizing, excruciating period, was making the call. And now what I say often is, I wish I had had me. And I basically created a career out of helping people when in the spot that I needed it most, to really help make an educated, intuitive, informed decision that was, stripped away of all the layers of programming that we all get, like mine's special because it was religious. So
Yeah.
yay, having a dad that's a minister, yay for me. And, parents and that were not supportive, but everyone's story is unique, and what layers or programming from society or anything, or like no one in your family is divorced. There are many, many things that are these layers that you have to strip pull back to get to your own inner knowing and your own truth of like, yes, the grass isn't always greener. Yes, it isn't always the right decision to leave, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And it was for me.
I'm curious to dig into that because two things we share in common. Like one, so my dad is not a minister, but I grew up Catholic. And I think that really shaped that contemplation phase for me too, of like, is this okay to be thinking about that? The religious upbringing that really impacted that. And two, the contemplation phase was by far the hardest part for me too. And so I'm curious, you mentioned getting in touch with this like inner knowing, this gut instinct. Was that pretty loud and clear for you, or something that you really wrestled with and built over time?
Well, what I tell my clients, Allison, is that if you are doing the work, like if you are in a tough spot and you are trying to make a call on something about anything in your life, really, you've got to dig in. And so I became obsessed with reading every book, listening to every podcast, like a podcast like this, like reading articles. Like I became obsessed with like, what is marriage? What is relationship? Why does it work? Why does it not work? When is it good? When is it bad? When do you leave? When do you stay? What is the right answer? And so it's like it started out as like a quiet murmur. What I always, Allison, is I had this like this low simmer sadness, like a low simmer burn of just like, I think it's supposed to feel different. Like I just was like, I didn't wake up happy. And maybe part of that is I had like small kids and a job and whatever, but like I was able to observe other people in my sphere who I saw that were married, even with kids, even in an intense, stressful season, where like the guy just looked at the girl a certain way or pinched her side or played with the kids in a way that like took a load off of her and like just saw her and like cared for her. And I just was like, I don't have that. Could I have that? Like, is that an option? Because like that seems awesome. Like to be married to somebody who like still looks at you like that and takes a burden off, takes a load off, really sees you. So for me, it's like it just started at this low simmer. And then as I dug in and did my own therapy, I also hired a number of coaches and guides outside of normal therapy. I had a flower essence practitioner. I had an astrologist. I had someone do Reiki on me, acupuncture. And I mean, this is a hilarious thing to know when you're in this kind of spot. I was trying to outsource my inner knowing to everyone. And I was paying everyone too. I was like, who else can I pay to give me an answer? You like, let's go to this person. Let's go to this person. Do you have an answer? Do you have an answer? Do you have an answer? And they all, I feel grateful. They were all like, we can ask you smart questions. We can provide you with tools, practices, and resources that you have to do on a daily basis, but you are the only one with the answers. Like you are the only one who knows. And so because I invested a lot in myself and hiring other people and then followed their guidance and wisdom, when you start to do that, the noise gets louder and louder and louder. That by the end of like, I would say, an 18 months to 2 year period, by the end, it was like a megaphone inside my head, like so loud that I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. Like it gets to a point where I was just like, I could really be messing up my life. I could really be blowing it up. I could regret it. I'll never forget. I had one friend who lived on the street and I'm sitting in her beautiful big white kitchen and her massive marble island. And I tell her everything. I tell her every detail of what's happened in my contemplation and da da da. And she looks at me and she's like, I was like, so I think leave. And she was like, I'm just worried you're going to be less happy. And I go, me too. I am also worried that I am going to be less happy. I'm terrified. She said it so calmly and so solemnly. And I said, yeah, girl, I'm with you. Like no one's more scared of that than me. But I got to a breaking point of just like, I have to roll the dice because this isn't going to change where I am. I mean, and that's, I think, what people have to do when they're thinking about it. Exhaust every option. Yeah. And through your own, like either couples coaching or therapy or individual work you're doing or your own, consuming of books and podcasts and articles that are on the topic of marriage, love, connection, intimacy, desire, sex, all the things. I got to a place where I I realized no amount of counseling, coaching, whatever is going to change my ex-husband or me. We are so fundamentally different in these ways Could we limp through the rest of our lives as co-parents and friends and people that got together in college? Absolutely. We would have been, I mean, that was part what was agonizing. I think maybe it was similar with you and your husband of like, we could have done it. We absolutely could have made it. I know you didn't have kids yet, but like we could have made it till our kids got through college. We weren't nasty. We weren't fighting. It wasn't toxic. There was no abuse. There's no drug substance issues. Like we could have made it. But I am
I
like,
think it's so hard is because there's so many stories like ours where there's not a clear right answer,
mhm,
right by
yeah,
definition, right? You hear some of these like sensationalized stories of things that happen where it's like, well, of course, that's the logical conclusion. And like, why does it
yeah.
of course? But for a situation like this, it's like, it's really hard. So I know you're going to talk through a little bit of how you guide your clients through the decision process with everything that you've learned. But as you look back on your own story, can you pinpoint a moment when you got to that, like, I'm done with contemplation, like I have decided? Like, is there a moment that sticks out to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. It it didn't feel like a moment when it happened, but now looking back, I know it was the moment. So my son's birthday is a week before mine in April. And we had, and I'm not one of these insane adult birthday people. Like, I don't have to have like a huge birthday dinner. I don't have to have a party every year, whatever. But I did always growing up, my mom was very sweet and always like had like we would come down to the kitchen and there would be like a couple balloons and maybe like a literally like a handwritten banner that she had made on, that old printer paper that was like connected, like that you would have had to, yes, exactly. Like she would literally take, magic markers and just write like happy birthday, Anna, and like put it over the foyer or something, like it just felt different. And again, I just mentioned my dad's a minister. So like we didn't have a lot, but it was just a little something to make the day feel different and special. And I had told my ex-husband, Tim, early on, like, hey, because the first couple maybe birthdays we were married, I like came out in the kitchen and like not only was it just a couple gifts, like they weren't even wrapped. Like I was like, can you like wrap the gift? Like that's part of the fun of like opening a gift. Like he would like get me a cookbook I wanted and it would just be like sitting on the table. And I just would be like, there's just like nothing like fun or like celebratory about that. Like, can we like add a little whimsy to this situation? So I felt like I had really voiced that pretty clearly to him about what is important to me for birthdays. So he like improved over a couple years. But then the year we were moving to Raleigh, I look at him and I say, hey, so like this year, like you're going to have to do something. Like my birthday's Wednesday and like there's nothing in, townhouse we were renting and like there's nothing else. So like you're going to have to do something, like a balloon, something, flowers, anything. And that was on a Sunday. It was Easter Sunday. And on my birthday that Wednesday, I woke up and there was nothing. And I came downstairs. My sister lives in DC and she had actually was just there for work. So she spent the night with us. And I straight up like went off the handle and like lost my damn mind. Like I was so upset. And my sister was like, Anna, calm down. Like the kids are right here. Like calm down. But I just was so upset. And I said to him, do you remember me saying in the car on Sunday that like you were going to have to do like something?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he goes, I didn't hear you say that. And I just had this quiet moment with myself where I was like, I can't stay married to someone who doesn't hear me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and at that, I mean, unfortunately for him, I'm working. I've got two young kids. He's all the time. So, the very cliche, all the house burden is on me, managing the children, the bedtimes, the baths, the dressing them, the changing. I did all of that on top of working, on top of doing, him working and being alone. And so like it just broke me, I was like, I like, what are we doing here? Like I'm doing everything. And then just on this one freaking day in the year that you're supposed to take a moment and say, God, Anna, I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for the way you take care of our children and you manage your job and you manage all the nannies and you schedule play dates and, take the kids out to all the museums in Philadelphia and you manage public transportation with two young children and all these things. And like, you're so amazing and you work out and you're, fit as a mom and, anything like God, pick anything to like say, I see you. You're known. I'm celebrating you. Like these are things that are why I love you. Like if that one day, my birthday, you can't come up with that, like what am I doing? What am I doing? Like
It's not on the banner or the balloons on the
no.
day. It was like if you can't do it on this one day, it's like so endemic of it not showing up on a daily basis in
Yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah. It just was a culmination of
Yeah.
what we all desire so deeply, which is to be seen and to be known.
Yeah.
And I felt so unseen. I felt so unknown in that moment. Like, this, like, we didn't get yesterday. We'd been together at that point for over a decade. We started dating when I was 19, and that was like my 33 or like a 32nd or 33rd birthday or something like that. Like, sorry, pass on like, you didn't know. I told you this from day one, like, so now looking back, like on that day, I wasn't like, that's it, we're getting divorced. But that was the beginning of the end for me, I think, of, April 2017, just being like, what, like, and unfortunately for lots of women, which because you're, steeped in this topic, like, sorry, dude, like, I can make money and manage the kids all on my own. Like, if you can't even celebrate me, like, I'm so sorry, but I don't actually need you.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm so excited to get into the next part of your story, which is how you found love again and someone who does see you and does celebrate
Yes.
you. But before we move on to that briefly, I'm just curious, like, where did you go from there? So the moment you wake up, you're frustrated, upset, angry about, the lack of celebration. Like, where did it go from there to actually finalizing the divorce for you?
Oh, that's a long journey. Because I spent another like 2.5 years. I mean, basically April 27th that happened. For the next year, we move here. That's when the real low simmer sadness started happening. And then, I mean, maybe like fall of 20, no, like spring of 2018. So maybe a full year later
Yeah.
is when I really started to be like, I am so unhappy. And so I started talking to friends, like the couple very close to the best friends that I could trust. And I was like, I'm trapped. Like, I'm not going to leave Tim. Like, I'm not going to leave him. And she was like, you can leave him whenever you want. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, we are college sweethearts. We have all the same friends. Like, we now live in Raleigh. This is where his parents live. Like, we've got these two beautiful children. Also, by the way, I worked very hard for all of this. This was all part of the plan. I got the picture perfect family, like I got the, cute finance frat boy husband and two darling children, like, I mean, our last Christmas card that we sent out, the four of us, like literally slays me. Like it just rips me open because I just looked at this black and white photo of us just being like, oh my God, I wanted this so badly. I wanted it so badly. And so 2018 was a year like that ended that summer is when I started vocalizing to my husband that I was like not happy and like I don't know what that meant for us. I mean, I essentially told him like I'm reading these books, I'm listening to these podcasts, like I don't know, Tim, like maybe we would be better as co-parents. Like I'm not happy. Like I think you're a good person, I'm a good person. I think we could like consciously uncouple. I think we could do this. Like, I don't know. And then, something would happen and I'd be like, I can't leave him, and
Yeah.
or he would do something that was super nice. I mean, I will say to his credit, when I started being honest that like end of summer 2018, he woke up and he came after me full charge and did all the things and all of a sudden remembered flowers and cards and affirming me and all these different things. And like, I mean, I hate to say it because I want to believe that everything in life is redeemable. I was done. Like by the time he came around, it was too far gone. Like I felt so I felt so unknown and unseen for too long. And I hate that. Like, I hate even saying it out loud, you know? The steps after that, honestly, I asked my realtor about divorce attorneys and then I did like a consult, still not ready. I mean, that's another interesting thing. Lots of people do consultations with family law attorneys and don't go through with it because they're
Yeah.
just like, ugh. Sometimes they like realize, what would happen in terms of like splitting of assets and all that. And they're like, nope, I don't use that country club membership. And I have a sorority sister, a good friend of mine here locally, who one of her girlfriends in Charleston is a family law attorney. She's like, you would be surprised how many people come in, understand the process, and walk right back out. And they're like, I'm good, like I'm staying. So yeah, it was a full year and then another. I mean, and like it was like fall of 2019 where I was like, I'm really done. Let's tell our parents. Let's get through the holidays and tell everyone in February of 2020. And then the pandemic happened. And then we were lucky that because we are both mature and kind people, like our actual process was very slow. And in North Carolina, you have to wait a full year. You have to have
We
two
know the rules
physical.
are crazy state by state. The
Yes,
waiting
yes.
periods. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we had to wait a full year. Yeah, it was a long process, but we weren't nasty. Like we weren't, we shared costs and all that really nicely. But a really interesting part of our story that I think is so neat and confirming that my position, which I think is yours, that, a marriage doesn't have to be failed or broken, it can just run its course and be complete. Like it's just complete. It can just be this chapter in the very long arc of a very long life. And we first kiss when we started dating in London when I was 19 was on February 4th, 2004. And yeah, February 4th. So we kind of always called that like our anniversary. And then we had a wedding anniversary, of course. So we kind of shifted to that. We would always give like February 4th, like a little nod. That had been our anniversary, for 4 years before we got married. When we got married, we'd been together 4.5 years. And so we were lazy about getting divorced and follow the laws and blah, blah, blah. And at some point we emailed the judge or our attorneys like, hey, what's going on? When is like the final stage going to be on this break? Because we had both started dating other people. Like I was already with my now husband when we still didn't have a final stand. And I dated a couple of people before him and was dating as well. So we were like, hey, what's going on? And finally we got an email back and it was from one of our attorneys that basically said, yeah, here's your document. It was on the docket today for the judge and, they signed it and put a stamp on it or whatever. And they like sent it to us and it was February 4th.
Oh my gosh. I just got chills.
And I literally, and what I feel so happy about is I forwarded, or like Tim and I emailed about it. I was like, oh my God, did you see the date on the finalization? And it was just like, holy shit, like that's a wink from the universe or God that like we were complete. Like we started and then it ended and it was so beautiful and it was wonderful. Like there were so many wonderful parts of our shared life. We created these two little humans who are amazing, but like, wow, like closure, like it's done.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I know that not all divorces are ones that can end on those kinds of terms and to be able to share and look at it. But I think it sounds like it really speaks to who you are as individuals and kind of the care and respect that you had for each other, even as you completed this chapter of your life that was still really important and meaningful, but just wasn't the future for you.
Yes, yeah. And I appreciate your willingness to let me share my story, Allison, because I think you and I have talked about how we both felt really alone in our processes. I didn't know one person that was divorced, not one that was a peer, not one. I was like kind of young to get married, kind of young to have kids, not super young, but like 29, 31 is when I had my kids. I was 24 when I got married. That's kind of young. So I felt like I was just like, I'm on the front end of people getting divorced. Still, that made it horrible. I was so fearful. I didn't have anyone to ask any questions. And I feel very lucky in my story. I know because of the work I do, most divorces are not like this. However, I want to be very vocal about my story to encourage people that there is a way to do it without knives out and nastiness. And like you can be at each other's like games and graduations and birthday parties and Christmases, like side by side, like just like friends. Just like Tim is one of my best friends still. Like I talk and text to him every day. Okay. Like every single day. I know. I mean, talk about how different your experience is. Can you imagine talking and texting to your ex-husband every day?
Nope, we don't do
Uh,
that.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's possible because I want to help pull back any societal, religious, whatever programming or layers that's like this horrible thing
Yeah.
and you shouldn't do it. Like society wants to keep you there, you know? Like Amber Ray, I don't know if I sent you, did I send you
You
her?
did, yeah.
Yeah. Like she's got this great book out called Lovable, and she in a recent podcast just talked about, yeah, like society wants you to stay. Like we hate these like broken contracts or broken tethers or whatever. I just want to be a part of the continued, you know, I'm not certainly not the first, and I hope I won't be the last motion of just like, no, or it could also just be like, it didn't work out. It's not the worst thing.
Yeah.
And now Tim and I sit side by side on the basketball court, on the soccer fields, at the kids' parties, at Christmas, at all these things. And like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And now he's engaged, and I am with the exact right person that I should be with for my person, for my soul, for my essence.
Yeah.
And now, like, I mean, it's so great. That's so great.
I love seeing the smile, and it's a perfect transition to talking about your beautiful relationship with Mark. So you are remarried now. How long have you guys been married now?
A year and change, like a little over a year, but it is wild that we met my birthday, April 2021. So this April is 5 years, which I just can't, that seems wild to me that
Yeah.
that we've been in each other's lives for 5 years, because that's kind of a long time. 5 years long.
Congratulations on that, and so happy that you guys sound love on the other side. I'm curious, like, based on your first marriage and that relationship, like, how has it shaped this second marriage that you're in now with Mark?
One of the things that I am insistent with my clients, and they don't always listen, is you've got to write it out. I don't know if I talked to you about that, Allison. I think you have, but like you've got to write it out. You've got to write out what was so hard, what was hurtful, what felt like it didn't fit in your first container of marriage. And if you're gonna do it again, what are the missing pieces that you need? And what do you value? Like, what do you value in a partner? Because as I cheekily, you know, sort of like a jerk earlier said, like, hey, fortunately, women today can work and make money and like stay in the house and keep the car and keep all these things, because at this point, like if you don't bring helpfulness, kindness, you know, amazing romance and sex and attention and all helpfulness with dishes and laundry and all these other things, like I'm good. Like I'm really good at all that. So I think it's so important to write out if you are in a spot of wanting to find partnership again and think about, okay, I have one marriage that ran its course, it's complete. If I'm going to dive into another container of marriage, what are the elements that have to be there? Like what has to be there to be motivated to do it again? So I dated a couple people right after, and then I had a season where I just was like, I'm a mess, like an energetic swirly mess. I gotta not date and I've got to get clear. So I spent all my weekends, like when I didn't have the kids, like seriously, just deep diving in my house alone, journaling.
Yeah.
What went wrong? What was great? What has to be different this time? Like what absolutely has to be different? And so I got crystal clear on like what I was looking for in a partner and what I was, you know, trying to call in and manifest and bring into my 3D reality. And also just what I knew in order for me to do this again. I think these are why the absence of these things are why I got so sad
Yeah.
and like why I wasn't happy. So I really got tuned in to like, who am I? Because that's a problem for those of us who got married young and started, you know, I was 19 when we started dating. I'm a totally different person, you know, like is Anna at 34 different than 19? I mean, man, like we changed so much. And so I got really clear on like who I am without all the religious programming and family stuff and society stuff. I mean, also, because I mean, I just haven't mentioned, like, I'm also like dead centered Bible Belt here in North Carolina. So like that was also a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I got I'm just so happy. I got really clear in identifying what I thought I would need to be in love again and to be happy and to not like lose the spark for it to not fade. And I was adamant about those things. And in my handwritten journal, and it's a lot of things. Like I was pretty descriptive. Mark and I had been dating like 8 or 9 months, and we knew it was serious like early on. But I read him the list, and he was like, "Oh my God." He was like, "That's me." And I was like, "Yes, like that's you." Like I am such a believer. People might think that's woo woo, but like I'm such a believer in writing things out.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about your story, if I remember from our skinny margaritas a couple months ago, is you weren't like swiping on the apps and filtering for this when you found Mark, right? Like you didn't come up with that list and then say, okay, I'm setting my like Bumble and Hinge settings to look like X, Y, and Z. So like, how did you and Mark meet?
Yeah, I love the apps. I think they're such a great tool. However, I have a number of clients that are like, I can't do it. And I get it. Like I did it for a second and then I stopped. I think you can tell the universe. I think you could say how you want to meet the person. I do. Like that also might sound woo woo to some people, but I basically was like, okay, God, source, spirit, whoever's in charge, like I need you to bring this person to me because like I can't do the apps. Like I just can't. I tried, it didn't feel right for me. I think they're awesome. But they're just not for everyone. And so I had connected with Mark through like a mutual contact, and he had started following me, which I was confused about because my account was private at the time. I'm a divorced mom in Raleigh, North Carolina. He lives in Orange County, California. I was like, whatever, you can follow me back. That's fine. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna post like you're gonna think is interesting. I was in my period of not dating. I was like shaking off the ugh of like just the last couple years. And I was like, I need to get out of Raleigh. I need a different scene. I need a different like topography, geography, whatever. And so I emailed my aunt and I was like, any chance your desert house is free like the week of my birthday? And she was like, yeah, it is. You want to use it? Go ahead. And I was like, great. She was like, feel free to invite girlfriends or anybody you want to invite. So like come hang with you for the week. Like we would love for you to use it. Happy birthday. I was like, awesome. Then I just put that on my Instagram stories. I was like, I'd actually never been to Palm Springs. And I was like, I've never been. What are your favorite hikes, restaurants, bars, blah, blah, blah. And a couple people responded. I have a number of West Coast friends and contacts, and but then Mark responded, "Oh, that's interesting." Like, my our mutual friends, Fred, like this guy responded, and then we just started chatting, and chatting was like semi flirting, and then he finally was like, "Hey, I'd love to come buy your birthday drink when you're out here. Let's keep in touch." And I was like, "Huh, okay." So, I mean, he literally showed up on the doorstep with flowers in his hand, and I mean, the rest is history. Like, we dated cross country for 2.5 years. We saw each other every other week. Like, I would fly to California, we'd be here for a week, he would fly here. Um, and so it is a pretty like epic story of I got still, I got quiet, I wrote out what I wanted, I got clear on my deservingness and my worthiness around it. And then, like, the universe literally, like Mary Poppins, just dropped to my doorstep at my aunt and uncle's house and, like, never married.
Can I just comment on the full circle moment here, though, of like the moment that you decided with your ex-husband that you're like, I think this is the breaking point for me was the birthday, right? And then now it's finding love again with Mark is your birthday too. It's just like such a, I don't know, feels like a really full circle moment. And yes, I believe like the universe is there to support us. So it sounds if I found your happily ever after now.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it is so fun. I had a thought this weekend was just like a normal, boring, like, kids basketball and soccer and this and that. But I was driving somewhere on Saturday and I was just like, I love my life. Like, I'm so happy now. And I think that's what I'd love to tell people and share with my clients of just like you think you're always going to feel this way, but you won't. You just won't. Like you will not feel this sad or this bereft or, upset or angry or frustrated. Like it won't last forever. And I think if you're very about designing the life that you want and getting clear on yourself, your inner knowing, what your needs and values are and what makes you tick, like it can be really epic, and not to say that our relationship is a walk in the park. It's not. My marriage is way harder than my first marriage. I don't know if I shared that with you, but like this Mark Howerton is a pain in my ass. Like we fight way more than I ever fought in my first marriage. Way more. But that's part of our dynamic. That's part of the fire, the polarity. And it comes with the territory. Because some of the things I wanted that were different are the shadow side of why we fight all the time. There were qualities about Mark that I need in a man, in a relationship, in a dynamic. And it just that when he's in unhealth and the shadow side of those characteristics are gnarly. And so I pinch myself every day. I can't believe I'm this happy when I spent so many years unhappy. But I don't want to have any misconceptions or misgivings that it's like easy or it's not work, because it is. But the big difference is I never wake up and wonder, is this the right person? Am I in the right container? Is it supposed to feel different than this? And that's priceless, because every day for many years I woke up saying, is this the right person? Should I feel different? Should I be happier? And I am a million trillion times happier. Like it's harder, but like I have that like underlying peace, which you just no amount of money can buy.
Ugh. Okay. So everybody that's listening is going to be like, give me some of that, please. So let's talk about your work as a relationship coach. So I'm sure this whole experience, you're divorced, finding your second husband has all shaped the work that you do with your clients. But maybe just as a starting point, can you tell people like what a relationship coach actually is? Like, what are the types of clients that you work with? What are the topics you work with them with?
Yeah, thanks, Allison. It's a number of different things. And I know relationship coach is quite broad, but that's intentional because I essentially like to work with individuals or couples who are in crisis. So who are at an inflection point. They are either in a marriage and they're unhappy and things feel hard and they don't want to get divorced, but they need a pattern break or a change or a dynamic that's got to shift. So I come in with the tools and applications. So I sometimes work with couples, or sometimes one half and the couple, if the other person's not willing, but they really want to figure out how they can show up different. So I work with people who need a change. And so the way I work with people are in like 3-month, like 12-week intensives, because I'm trying to help be a bridge from be, unlike therapists that would maybe work with people for many, many years. My intention is usually to only work with people for a very finite, acute period of time where they need really like critical help, where it's kind of a SOS, like we need some emergency help here. And it's not going to work to just have this slow drip of like once a month therapy of friends. So I work with couples in that way. I work with individuals who are considering divorce. So that's a lot of it is divorce contemplation. And again, it's good to do like a 12-week intensive to kind of deep dive. Because I am guessing that if I had had someone like me do a 12-week deep dive, I would have gotten somewhere faster to like a decision point. Whereas I'm sure with you, Allison, and you're thinking like you had a big time busy job, you're traveling, you're working, you have clients, you have colleagues, you have friends, you have parents, you had a sister, like, you've got all these people you're answering to. So you weren't like all of a sudden like, I'm going to focus on thinking about this situation and how I'm feeling, what the dynamics are, and whether or not it's right or wrong. So that's a big part of the work I do. I work with people who have already gotten divorced and are, through the lawyers, attorneys, and are just like, they're a pool, like they're a mess. This time last year, I had a client come in and she was at the very end of her divorce process. Her husband left her out of the blue for someone at work. Her whole life got, ripped out from under her. She thought they were happy. And she just was like, I'm just crying every single day and I can't pick myself off the floor, And I'm like, okay, like, let's get you off the floor. She was so cute. Said, let's say her name was Kate. Like, it's not Kate, but she was like, my friends used to call me like Holiday Kate. Like, I'm so fun. Like, I'm so fun. And like, I'm dead inside. And I'm like, okay, we've got our work cut out. Like, we've got to get back Holiday Kate. And so we did over 12 weeks with the tools, the daily practices, like the in-between, like ad hoc calls or text messages. Because in those moments, and this, like in the really intense seasons, it doesn't cut it to see somebody once a week. I know when I was in certain, like the real valleys of my contemplation or my divorce season, I would like up on a Tuesday and text one of my coaches or guides or therapists and be like, a mantra, like I can't get out of bed. And I've got two small children and a big busy job. Like I need help like right now today. Like I'm in crisis in this moment. And so I like being a high touch coach where
Yeah.
you need more than just a once a week. It is a 1 week appointment that we have booked, but it's like in between calls, text message, voice note, articles, podcasts. Okay. Like, I
Right.
mean, I have clients now that are just even like, okay, what podcast? This is how I'm feeling, or, things like that. So people who are in recovery, and then, finally, I would say people who are ready to date again, people who are maybe they got through a divorce or a really hard breakup and they've maybe done some therapy and they've like done some like, inner child or like family past work. I mean, and that's
Right.
the easiest way to say a difference between a therapist and a coach is therapists are often past looking, like, hey, what happened in your family of origin or your childhood or whatever? Let's heal some of those wounds to move forward. And a coach is really more forward, like, how do we move forward? What's your next step? Also, I'm much more directive as a coach as opposed to a therapist, which is what people want a lot. I mean, I don't know how you felt. In different points, I was like, somebody just tell me what to do. Like, what are the steps? Like, how do I get from A to B? What's the next thing I need to think about as I'm considering divorce or going through a divorce or on the other side of divorce? Like, how do I think about co-parenting? Like, if you've never shuttled kids back and forth between two houses, you don't know how it works. You don't know if it's awesome for the kids to still have family photos up or if it's traumatizing for them. Like,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff like I answer those questions and help people navigate. The dating after divorce is really taking people through the process that I did myself to find my second husband, of like the exercises, the journaling, all the things that I did to regulate my nervous system, to really call in my partner, people who need help, like getting clarity on
Yeah.
what their values are. Because, if people are careful, they go out and they end up with the exact same prototype person as their ex because it feels familiar to your nervous system and your brain, or you the extreme opposite, which is what I did initially. I went the extreme opposite of my ex-husband, and that was a total disaster. Usually the answer, like many things in life, is somewhere in between. So I really help coach people through, their work on the dating apps or with matchmakers or out in the wild, meeting people and just, equipping people with the tools and exercises and resources to be super thoughtful about finding that partner. I mean, I equate it to like, here we are in January. If you want to lose 20 pounds, you probably hire a trainer, like if you have a hard time going to the gym on your own or, you pay someone to be intentional about it. So a lot of what I do is when people are ready to find someone and be really intentional about relationships and dating. And it's usually after divorce, but sometimes just after a breakup or dating in general. I mean, I've coached a couple younger people who've not been divorced, just on dating in general, helping them get it right, ideally on the first time. So that's the work I do across those kind of different spectrums.
I love it. And I want to come back to the dating post-divorce thing because I'm sure that will be on people's minds. But as you think back to some of the couples or the individuals that you've worked with through the marriage intensives or, the time when they're in that contemplation phase, do you see that it like always ends up going to divorce, or the people that end up staying together? Is there something that sort of becomes the unlock for those individuals that it's like, oh, we were able to work through this and stay committed?
Oh, that's a great question, Allison. And it's like the, $50 million question, right? I think that couples who have not fully fallen out of love
Mm.
are helped by practices and tools and different ways of operating.
Yeah.
If one or both has like fully fallen out of love, it is hard to come back from that. And I know that's squishy, and you probably hate that as a management consultant, getting a squishy answer.
No, it
Um,
resonates. One of my friends that I talked to her about her divorce, she said that she and her ex were in couples therapy together. And one of her reflections was, she said, honestly, like, I don't think that my ex wanted it to work at the end. I think couples therapy became an off ramp so that it didn't feel quite so sudden.
yeah.
And not to say that her ex was, doing that intentionally or on
Yeah,
class, but it probably felt better of like, oh, we've both tried or we've both worked through this. But I think what really resonates for me, and that is that, you know, for it to work from the other people I've spoken with, both people have to really want to give it a solid try and put in the work.
yes.
And then the tools have a chance, not a guarantee of helping. But
Yeah.
does that feel right to you based on your experience?
Yeah, totally. But there's this awesome family law attorney in Charlotte, Nicole Sodoma, and she wrote a book, Please Don't Say You're Sorry, because she hates it when she says, like, I'm divorced. People are like, I'm so sorry. She's like, please don't say that. She says it takes two people to get married, it takes one person to get divorced. So that speaks to what you're saying. Like, if one person checks out, you're kind of dead in the water. Or if one person is like fully out of love, like it's hard to come back unless that person or both of you are committed to the straight up logistics of the container. So I have had one couple that I don't think the guy was in love anymore. The woman was, but the guy, like, through our work together, decided logistically he wanted to stay. So they're still married, they've had kids, and they're together. And and then that becomes like a philosophical question, like, is it right to stay if it's just logistical? Is it, that's not my call.
Yeah. But what I love about that is it comes back to a little bit of what you were sharing about your story earlier. And, what I certainly felt in others is like, there's not necessarily a clear right answer, and no professional, not a relationship coach, not a therapist, not a book, not a podcast can tell you what the right answer is for you in your marriage. It ultimately, I believe, comes down to your individual values and your values as a couple. And so, that couple or that partner may have had a different view on what, mattered in marriage and in that container, as you said, than somebody else. So,
yeah.
So let's talk about dating after divorce. Hypothetically speaking, if someone was, let's say, 7.5 years post-divorce and opera year, what do you do to work with those individuals who are ready to get back out there? I think this episode is going to air pretty close to like around Valentine's Day. And so I'm sure there's a lot of emotions around that time of year for people. And so, what are some of those things you talked about, the journaling practice that you had, but what do you advise people who are in this phase of like, I'm ready to find love again?
Okay, so first and foremost, I am huge about writing. I am like a broken record on that, on journaling out. I think a lot of free form journaling is great, just literally getting your thoughts on paper, because it is powerful that when you start writing, sometimes there have been so many times when I write things that I didn't even realize I was thinking. It's like your brain is this ball of yarn that when it starts to unravel, like, you learn wild things about how you're feeling, what you're processing, what you're looking for, what you're hoping for. So I am huge on lists and writing things out. And so writing out your feelings and your process of dealing whatever, if you've had an ending of a marriage or a breakup, then I have like 3 things I would write out, and 2 are so cheesy, but I think you'll align with these, Allison. And I have these by my bathroom and vanity in my bathroom, my mirror. It's am and then I feel. And this like sounds so cheesy saying this, but I have my clients do this because when you're in a state of wanting to attract a partner and like be ready for a partner, you have to be so solid on like your own worth, your own value. And then also, I think like how you want to feel with that person. So I have this list of like, I am, and I like wrote all the things that people, it feels silly or selfish or weird to like compliment yourself and say these things. But I just tell my clients, what if people said to you your whole life, Allison, that you're smart, you're witty, you're kind, you're beautiful, you're fun, you're sparkly, you're magnetic. Like, I'm guessing people have said that to you more than once, so you would write all those things on your piece of paper and have it somewhere you can see it all the time, all the damn time. Then under that, I put, I feel, and I wrote how I wanted to feel when I found my next guy or next partner. And so I wrote like, I feel relaxed. I feel calm. I feel happy. I feel celebratory. I wrote how I wanted to feel. So literally for years before I met Mark Howerton, before he dropped from the sky on my doorstep in Palm Springs, I'm really brushing my teeth, washing my face, doing my hair to I am and I feel. And whether it's like conscious or subconscious, I'm looking and being exposed to these, lit that I did in my big bubbly handwriting with Crayola markers and hot pink and hot purple. And like, I'm like, I feel I am like, this is, and I literally, I acted as if, like I acted as if I already met him because I was, I had a big time job. I traveled, I worked all the time. I had two small kids. If I had allowed myself to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be alone, or like, what if I don't ever meet someone? I had to like walk out of my house in my heels, in my business dress, into my office, being like, I've already met him. Like, I just have. Like, I've already met him. I'm going to trust God and the universe. The timing is not mine. Like, I don't know when the timing's right. I don't know how much healing I need to do or what I need to figure out. But I am literally going to wake up every day and act as if it happened. And I did that. And I know that sounds insane and kooky and woo woo, but like, that is what I did. I acted as if it already happened. I made a list of who I am, why I'm of love and partnership, how I wanted to feel when the person showed up. And then in my journal, I wrote all the things that I wanted. And then I also like blessed other people in love. And I also like fell in love with my own life, like I just like I loved life. Like I was like, oh, I love this moment. I love the sunshine or the sunset or like this friend I'm with. Like, I got drinks or dinner with a friend around that time and she and her husband were doing so well, which made me so happy. And when I found out someone engaged or somebody was starting to date someone, I was like, oh my God, bless them. Like I love love. Like I love love. And to really not let that creep into like jealousy or anger or frustration or God, like why didn't my marriage work out? Or why couldn't I be that happy? Just to be like, that is so rad that they're so in love and doing so well. Or that's so rad that so-and-so started dating or so-and-so got engaged. Or, you can imagine, Allison, because I was I got married so young and then I got divorced relatively young and I'm working with all these younger people who are getting engaged and I'm like, God, like I'm literally in divorce proceedings, but so happy for you. Like, so happy you're getting engaged. Just make sure you have a prenup, but you won't get divorced. You won't, So a lot of it was mindset. It was mindset work. It was journaling. It was believing the stuff, even when I didn't, like to really wake up and believe these things. And then, tell everyone. That's one big tip too. It's the same thing. If you're trying to get a new job, tell everyone, literally, because everyone thinks about themselves first and foremost. We think about ourselves. So even if you go to drinks with a friend and you're like, hey, I'm really like, this is my year to meet someone, 2026. Like, do you know of anyone? Your friend will literally stop and be like, yeah, actually, this guy just moved in my building and he has a cute dog. And like, I think he's single. Do you want me to get his number? Yes. But guess what? If you hadn't have said that, your friend wouldn't have brought up the guy with the dog in the building. Because she doesn't care. She cares about herself. Like we always just care about ourselves. And so I tell people, you have to say, I am looking. You tell your colleagues, you tell your neighbors, you tell your sister, you tell your parents, you tell everyone, like, I am ready. 2026 is my year. Who do you know? Do you know someone? And then you go on a date and then you get a number and then it's the same thing. If you're trying to get a job, if you are really ready to meet someone, you literally say, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to meet someone. Who do you know?
What I love about what you just shared is like you have to do the deep inner work, but you're not going to meet the person if you're just sitting at home with your journal all the time.
Yes. Yeah. You won't.
You have to like do the work. And I know because I have dated quite a bit over the last several years. It's hard to put yourself out there and to be vulnerable, to say like, I don't want to repeat my past mistakes. I don't want to, I want to find something great. I've done the work and I'm comfortable being alone and by myself and everything. So whoever does come into my life needs to be pretty fucking great, right? But you have to get out of the analysis paralysis or the overthinking and actually just go out and date and learn through experience, especially for you and I both, like our first marriages were our first kind of real big relationship kind of experience like that. And you kind of need the experience to get out there and see what is aligned beyond just kind of what you put on the list. I think. Does that feel right
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah. And then be open to creative possibilities. Because I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that are like, "Ah, there's no one where I live. There's no one where I live." And if I'm honest, I felt a little bit like that about Raleigh, like, because I mean, if I had married someone in Raleigh, I would have ended up with like a 2.0 version of my ex-husband. And he's a lovely person, but like, there's a reason we got divorced. Like, I didn't want to be married to that type of prototype. And so I am now married to this freaking like California surfer therapist that is like completely different than my Ivy League, former frat boy finance first husband. So I will to say that be open to creative possibilities. I tell my clients all the time, like, why can't you date someone in Atlanta, in Miami, New York, in Chicago, and wherever, and it sounds insane, Allison, but like same for you. Like you live in LA and it's a big metropolitan city. You could date somebody in San Diego or SF or Austin or whatever.
I
Like,
live on the west side of LA. Just going to the east side of LA is like a big trek.
I know that you have to get out of that mentality. You have to get out of that mentality and be open to creative possibilities. Because if I had said, and this is for so many things in life. One of my girlfriends who was there when Mark and I first met in Palm Springs, she was like, you can't date him. And I said, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And she was like, because then you would have to like have a house in the sky. And I was like, that sounds cool. Like, what? Like, there's a house in the sky? Cool. But like, that's so much of life, right? Even in business, like the most successful people have said, why not? Like, why can't I? Why can't I date someone, that for you lives in Santa Barbara or Bakersfield or some random location? You just don't know. If you have these preconceived set notions of they've got to be 6'3" and have this type of job and live here and do this and never been married and da da da. I mean, that's too much. Like, I didn't say any of that stuff. I wasn't like, he's got to have this color hair and this height and this color eye and this type of job. I let all of that go, like all of it. Because I mean, having been married before, none of that matters. Yeah. None of that matter. Like the looks and all that's going to fade. That's nice to have as like an initial thing, but be open to creative possibilities because I do think sometimes the universe, God, will give you something you didn't know you needed,
Yeah. I love that. Well, as we wrap up today's conversation, I'd love to just hear, for folks that are listening to your story, for hearing about the work that you do as a relationship coach, what do you hope most sticks with them from today's conversation?
I think that you're not alone. And I think that it's super important if you are in a season of relationship crisis to figure out the right resource for you to have these conversations, to get quiet, to get still, to get to your own inner knowing and your own intuition, because it's just really no way to live if you have like a constant um simmer burning of sadness or confusion, like there's just nothing worse than being in confusion of like, is this right? Is this wrong? Should I stay? Should I go? Is this aligned? Is it not? Is the grass greener? Is it not? Like that is a wretched place to exist. And a lot of people stay there. And so if there's one thing, like if you're there, you don't have to stay there. And I don't want you to stay there. You've got to get out of it, whether it's, working with me or someone else. Like you have to find a path out of, confusion and just constant, like, the word, like when you're sick, like, I think it's supposed to be different. Like, am I supposed to be happier? Is this supposed to be, or is this what it is? And like, right. Like marriage is hard, but it's supposed to be the right kind of hard,
Yeah. Well, I love that. And it's so helpful to have your story and kind of what you shared about your second marriage and that right kind of hard. Right, stuck with me. Well, I wish I had known that a relationship coach was a thing back when I was going through it. I had, therapists and couples therapists, but I certainly see the value that you bring to your clients at whatever phase of the journey that they're in. Where can people find you if they want to learn about working with you?
Yeah, thanks, Allison. My website is annahowerton.com. And then I'm on Instagram at annahowerton _ at the end, and also Facebook and actually all the channels at annahowerton _. So would love to hear from you. I do free one-to-one strategy calls because this is heart-driven work for me. So like I want people to get to know me, and I also want to help, even if it's not the right aligned timing to work with me in like an intensive 3-month engagement. I want to be able to share podcasts, resources, books, tools that I can just get free. So I have that. It's on my website. You can book a call, use my Calendly, and get on my calendar if you just want to have an initial sounding board and get my thoughts. I'm happy to share.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your story, and for sharing about the work you do with your clients. I really appreciate you being here.
You're so welcome, Allison. Thank you for having me. It's such a joy. I'm so excited for you and the Details podcast. I am looking forward to watching and rooting you on and being a part of this community. So thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Details with Allison Kahler. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. New episodes drop every Tuesday.